I have created in here a directory structure for my app. Okay, my app only has what's called a container file within it. We're going to walk through that briefly. I talked earlier about how when you build a container, you base it on a base image, unless you're building it from real scratch. But in this case, we're using UBI as a base image. You define that base image with this first line in this container file called from. I'm building from this other image, from docker.io/Red Hat/UBI. Now, there's other places to get the UBI image. I'm just using this one because, well, it was convenient. And then I'm literally running a command, dnf-y install httpd, because I'm going to put, that's going to be the application that I'm running within here. And then I'm using DNF to clean itself up because I don't want that extra cruft in my container, right? So when DNF runs for the first time, it builds a bunch of cache and it stores packages. And that's all stuff that maybe if I am publishing this container, I don't want to make other people download every time they pull this container image, right? So it's good practice. Clean out your DNF cache after you've done your installs. If I was going to do several installs, I would wait till the last one to do the clean, right? So that makes sense, right? This expose line says what port is the application that's running on my container supposed to listen on. This isn't like a firewall or anything. It's more like metadata that gets written into the container image so that if I hand this container image off to someone else and they want to run it and they're like, what port should it listen on? They can check the metadata for that image and it'll tell them expose port 80 because that's where this application runs. If I reconfigured Apache so that it runs on port 8000 or something, I should then expose 8000. So when someone runs it, they know what port they should expose. And then the last thing I have here is the entry point. Now, there's two ways you can define what command the container image is supposed to run. There's CMD and there's entry point. And there's some nuance as to which one you use when. CMD is more like the default that can be overridden. And entry point is more like, if this container is running normally, always run this, right? And there's better definitions than that online. Maybe I'll find the link and we'll throw it into the show notes if you want to read more about that. I'm using entry point here. We're running HTTPD and there's a command line argument. You have to define them like an array like this for entry point. That's why the syntax looks like this. But if you were running this right at the command line, it would just be httpd-d foreground because that's the command line option to run Apache in the foreground. The reason we're doing that is because the output of the container will end up in the container logs. And we kind of want that to be the service that's running. We want the output of the thing we just ran to be in the container logs so that we can see that. And I'll show you that in a minute. All right, so we're not going to make any changes here. We're just going to build this container. And that's actually really simple. We do a Podman. In fact, let me copy paste so I have less chance of typoing here. Then I'll explain to you what we're doing in the command. So Podman build, right? Pretty straightforward. We're telling Podman to build the image. -T is the tag. Now, you can get a little more complicated with the tag. What this is implying is that I'm building a local image called my app, right? If I was going to push this to an external registry, which is another thing that we're not really going to touch on today, but remember when I did that from line, or we're using the docker.io address for where to get containers from, that's our public registry, right? If I were building this to publish on Docker.io, I would have a path to where my registry lives, or the registry for this container lives, and it would be docker.io/nate/httpd would be the name of my container. And that's what I would put in the tag, right? And then when you build it, it doesn't automatically push it up there. It just tags it that way so that later when you're sure that your image is working, you do a Podman push, and it'll push that up to the registry that you had defined. But again, we're not working with remote registries here. This is going to build a local one, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. So you can see it's basing it on that UBI. It's running that DNF command that I told it to run. It's installing Apache. And then it'll actually call out the other things that we told it to do, like expose port 80 and set the entry point. And then it says it's done, right? So clear the screen here. If I do a Podman image list, now in my list, I have localhost/myapp, which is the one that I just built. And then, of course, those other two images that I've been working with already, the UBI image and the MariaDB image, right? So now I can actually run this container if I want to. So let me copy paste that too. So what we're doing here is, again, Podman run. You saw me do this earlier, so I'm not going to step through every single piece here. The -d says to do it in the background, runs as a detached container. This flag, the --rm, is just for my cleanup purposes. When I stop this container, I want it to delete it, right? That's what rm means. Maybe you don't want to do that, but it's great for testing, especially if you're like, I'm not sure if this thing's going to even work, and I don't want to have to delete the thing manually after I'm done. You put that --rm in there, and as soon as it stops, it'll delete the container that you're setting up. And of course, I gave it a name. I told it what port to pass in. Even though it exposed port 80, I still have to tell Podman, map the port, because I could map a different external port to the container port. I could say map port 8000 to port 80, and then it'll listen on port 8000 on my host, even though the container is set to listen on port 80. And then I told it what image to run. Now, I could say localhost / my app, but it implies it if it can find that image locally.
So one quick note there, Nate.
Sure.
Excuse me. The port mapping. Nate is running this this container as root. And as root, you can do things like attach stuff to low numbered privileged ports. Like
right.
Port 80. If you are running as a unprivileged normal user, if you try to run this Podman command, you get an error message about not being able to bind to port 80, because as a regular person, you have to attach your services to ports above 1024. And that's
right.
where like the port mapping, where it's like a high numbered port to a low numbered port, come into play, where it's high numbered on the container host and it goes to port 80 within the container, because that's where the service in the container is listening. So there are some like slight variants if you're doing user unprivileged containers or rootless containers versus containers running on your machine as root.
And that's a thing we haven't even touched on. I'm doing this stuff as root. You can absolutely run these containers, build these containers, whatever, as a non-root user, which is one of the neat things about Podman. I don't know if this is still the case. I think it is. But Docker, you always had to do things as root because it was working with a rootful daemon, right? Again, I haven't touched Docker since I started using Podman with RHEL 8. So what is that, 6 years ago now? So maybe that's changed. All right. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I had one more thing on that, which is our recommendation is that you do things rootless by default. We're doing it as root because then we don't have to deal with some of the more complex things like port
right.
mapping. The other thing about rootless containers is that within the container, the processes running inside of the container believe that they are running with root authority. So like if Nate was to attach to this container right now, Apache and other stuff inside of the containerized environment would believe that it's running as root on inside of its container. The reality is, if we were to look at the process status, like a PS command on the container host, you may see those process IDs running, but they're running as a privileged user account, which is kind of what you want, right? You don't want your container, something wonky in your container, to then give root access to your container host, which is what running a root like this can provide. So rootless is definitely the way to go. We're just trying to keep things, some of the eccentricities of doing that, hidden from you.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely things like file system permissions that you need to deal with when you're running rootless. There's also SE Linux sometimes gets in the way. When you're talking to other services, it's sometimes tricky. But again, for the sake of our Podman for Beginners demonstration, we didn't want to delve into like the craziness there, right? So we have our container running. If I do a Podman PS, now we have two containers. One of them is the MariaDB that we were running earlier, and the other is my new My app that's running, my HTTP. And we talked before about running in the foreground. If I do a Podman logs on my HTTP, it'll give me the output of the daemon, which is essentially just, I couldn't reliably determine my server's fully qualified domain name. And that's expected because it doesn't have a fully qualified domain name because it's running in a container. Doesn't really affect running of the service. But if something horrible went wrong and it couldn't run Apache, this is where you would get the output, right, from the command line that you ran. And that's sometimes really, really valuable, because otherwise, once the container has stopped, now remember I used that rm command, this is where it can burn you. If the container did not run, it would have attempted to run, it would have crashed out, it would have gone back to a non-running state and immediately deleted itself, and then I wouldn't have had any logs to look at. So if you're troubleshooting, sometimes don't use the --rm, because you may not have any logs to look at if it didn't work. So you're just things to think about, right? Okay, so Of course, the ultimate test, let's make sure this thing's working. Now, remember, I told it to listen on port 80. So now localhost port 80 should get me to my container, and it should just get me the Apache it worked page, or the RHEL default page, which is exactly what it did here. I know that's a lot to look at on the screen, but just trust me, that's the it worked page, like the welcome page that you get from either Apache or Nginx when you run them on a RHEL box and don't specify any web root or any additional content to serve as the web root.